first of all, for coming in. I think first, in the relation to grain, and this might be a sort of a side outside what people are talking about in grain for cattle. Most of our grain, my understanding, is imported for making bread for the bakeries. And what is the situation there? I know that some of it comes from Canada. I believe it's mixed in England with some of the British grain. What is our situation there? And to Board Bia, and I have a numerous amount of questions, so it might be worth your while. Just keep note of them because I'll be ticking them off as you're answering them. In Northern Ireland, last year there was the factories down there were granted, they were able to kill Irish cattle, and they were certified by Board Bia. Is there, are you aware of any plans that processors down there will take Irish cattle, or have you talked about getting rid of this nomad situation? When ye have offered to work with Northern Ireland, they have basically said they want to be part of this PGI status. Is there any sort of a deal being done that will help us in that way? 5 years the Brexit is going on. What percentage of beef that was going to England have ye moved to other parts of the world away from the British market? How many trade missions have ye been on over the last 5 years with live exporters, and the numbers of live exporters ye have brought with ye? In relation to China, there was great talk about China. How much money has Board Bia spent in China in opening them, trying to open markets there, and what actual amount has gone there? In relation to PGI, will your PGI be a premium price? Yes or no? I don't want to. Is it going to be a way higher price if you're grass-fed? And do you think that if we are putting in a PGI application that includes maybe 1.8 tonne per animal of grain put into them, that will be classed as grass-fed? And when do you envisage the suckler bred or the suckler grass-fed logo or PGI to be sent to Europe for the suckler herd? And will that be a separate entity completely away from what we're looking at the moment? And in relation to our exports to other countries, has Board Bia looked at where in Holland at the moment we have, I know that there is difficulty with one, that my understanding is that one of the biggest buyers may not be buying this year. And where do you envisage all the calves are going to go out of the country? And in the line of horticulture, are you aware that there's peat coming into the country, and have ye made government circles aware that it's like bringing water to the well, that we're stopping peat production here for the horticulture sector and leaving them through planning processes and all that in a difficult situation, while at the same time we're importing the peat? And in relation to the logo, will the Board Bia grass-fed logo be used in all beef brands by processors, or who will own that logo? And was that discussed? I'm hearing it wasn't. Was it discussed at the task force when an application was lodged? Thank you.
Okay. Mr. McCarthy.
I hope I capture all of them, Deputy Fitzmaurice, and that's what I'm hoping, if I miss something. On the trade missions, 1 second now, I'm just going to go, sure, sorry, let me start on the Northern Ireland first of all. Sorry, I did start at the wrong place. We've never had a situation where Borbia quality assured was slaughtered in Northern Ireland. So just to clear that one, I think you implied in your question that we had verified slaughtered.
Was there clearance given for slaughtering cattle in Northern Ireland last year?
Not by Borbia.
To no factory?
No.
Okay.
Then, with regard to the trade missions, I can walk you through the list of trade missions that we've gone on and then bring you up to date as to which of them were live exports.
Live exports,
Live
all I
exports
want.
is all you're interested in. Okay, so in 2018, we went to a trade mission to Turkey for live exports. We also would have gone in 2020 to Algeria and Egypt for live exports. We've also gone to Holland in 2019. Again, and each of those occasions was with the department and accompanied by live exporters. There is, Deputy Fitzmaurice, a live exporters association. There seemed to have been some confusion in the previous session as to the existence of an association for live exporters. That was established last year, Padraig, or the year? Over the last year, and we've always brought that association with us. Brought other exporters as well, but where we were limited with numbers, we would have brought and gone through the association. That association then has is.
That's 3 trade missions in the last
2018.
3 years, 4
Exactly,
years.
yeah.
And how many would we have for slaughtering beef? For, we'd say, dead cattle?
We would, I'm going through now, we normally, for the other trade missions, we would have taken a very strong dairy agenda to them, and then we would do a joint trade mission dairy beef to markets such as China. Beef would be on our agenda, Deputy Fitzmaurice. Dairy and beef would be on our agenda, I guess, nearly everywhere that we go. Whether it's on a beef access issue, we were in Korea, Singapore. We would have been in Japan, beef would have been on the agenda, as would access for lamb, as would promotion of pig meat. But the trade missions that we undertook on live exports were dedicated. The Turkey trade mission was a dedicated live export. Algeria and Egypt, we also did dairy on that trade mission as well. And then the Netherlands, we did, when we went to the Netherlands, we brought the live exporters with us, but we would have also had beef conversations whilst there. Then I'll actually have to come back to you, Deputy, on the amount of money that we have spent in China to give you the detail of that. We would spend funding and on promotion, etc. I don't know, Padraig, if you have a figure in mind for that, but we would do a lot of European-funded campaigns in China, which would have a smaller contribution from the Exchequer and a larger contribution from Europe. That was how we originally kicked off our campaigns in China. That was 80% European funded and 20% Irish funded, but I'll have to come back to you on I don't have a figure in my mind as to the total figure we've dedicated there.
You might come back to me on that, and the tonnage that's gone out.
The tonnage we can give you straight away.
Yeah, in terms of China, in 2019, about 12,000 tonnes of Irish beef would have gone to. In 2020, so far this year, just under 7,000 tonnes. Obviously, if you look at the year that we've had, with the atypical BSE case and the suspension of trade to that market, just beef, yeah, absolutely, Chairman. We would have been 80% or 60% higher in the first 5 months of the year to China, but obviously since then, trade has been suspended.
Pork exports gone up to China?
They're up about 7% year to date,
Only.
Chairman. Yeah.
Just the answers to Deputy Fitzmaurice, if you send them to the Secretariat, we'd circulate them to all members of the committee. That's okay.
The beef in the market for England, what have we moved in the last 4 or 5 years?
Deputy, in terms of, if you go back to 2015, roughly about 53% in volume terms of all of our beef exports would have gone to the UK market. This year we're on track to be about 46% of our beef volumes going
So
to the UK.
if we had Brexit to be like all this gained over 5 years, about 6 or 7% is all
Yes,
we've gained.
and there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one, within that, if you look at the UK market, it is still one of the highest paying markets that we have for Irish beef. So in terms of getting the best possible return, from the beef that's produced. The UK is really, really important to us, and that's why we still have in around 250,000 tonnes of beef going to that market. At the same time, we have grown volumes to the likes of the German market, the Italian market, the Scandinavia, the markets such as Switzerland. So there has been some progress made, but it's, I suppose at any time, it's can we get a better return in a different market over and above the UK? In some cases, the answer to that has been yes. In other cases, it hasn't been. So that's why the UK.
It said to us just a week ago here by the processors that most of it is mince that's going. Is that correct?
Mince will be, if you look at
So
retail,
we're saying that mince is the highest paid market.
but if you look at the animal itself, obviously there's a forequarter and a hindquarter to the animal as well, and you're trying to get the best return for the full carcass. And when you look at the UK market and the sales of beef through supermarkets, over half of beef sold through supermarkets in the UK is now minced. That's what the market is looking for. That doesn't mean the market doesn't return a relatively good price for that product. Our steak cuts are going to the likes of the German market or the Italian market. So it's about different parts of the animal going to different markets, Deputy. And for the parts of the animal that are going to the UK, it is a high price market.
Right. What about the grass-fed logo
Yep.
and the grain?
Absolutely. In terms of the grass-fed logo, obviously behind the grass-fed logo, we have a grass-fed standard that we've developed over the last year and a half or so. And that grass-fed standard has now been approved by the Irish National Accreditation Board. It works basically on the system that at least 90% of the feed consumed by that animal in its lifetime needs to be grass or grass-based forage. So that's the minimum bar. In all reality, when you look at the data that's coming through, that figure is probably closer to 95% of all the feed consumed by the animal is grass or grass-fed. And really, we would have looked at this from a consumer point of view in a number of our key export markets when we're developing it to see what level of grass-fed would be acceptable. And certainly by the time you got anywhere close to 90%, it was deemed to be a really strong position. And I suppose the reason we went down the route of grass-fed in terms of a standard in the first place was that in terms of areas that consumers are interested in and what it says to them, grass-fed is one of the stronger messages that are there because it leans into a natural production system. It leans into a higher welfare production system. They're all strengths of it as a production system. And now that we have a verified grass-fed standard in place, it allows us to robustly communicate that and demonstrate that in the marketplace.
Am I incorrect? You can feed up to 1.8 tonne a meal and you're still grass-fed.
It'll depend on the system and the animal in case. What we're saying is, and the standard is, it's a minimum of 90% grass or grass-based forage fed to that animal in its lifetime. That will vary depending on whether it's a 2-year-old steer, a 20-year-old, or a 2-year-old steer or a 20-month-old heifer. It will vary.
What about the suckler PGA?
The suckler, again, one of the findings, or one of the results, I should say, coming out of the last Beef Task Force meeting was that we would work over a 3-year programme to develop a suckler brand for Irish suckler beef. What we've done, we had our first meeting of an oversight group this week that has a majority farmer representation on it as well. What we're now starting to do over the next number of months is build up that brand proposition. What are the concepts behind it? What are the messages that we will be delivering? Once we have that done, as we get to the March, April time next year, then we will go about launching that in the European marketplace. But it's a brand for Irish suckler beef. It's a standalone brand as it stands. Now, if we're to be successful in terms of a PGI, then we will look to see how these can be integrated together over a period of time.
What about price? Prices in this PGI that we're going for at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that going to be a higher price than the normal price?
Well, that was the ambition from day one, is that the only reason we're going for it is to try and get a better price.
Okay, that's grand. Thank you.
Okay. IGFA.
In relation to Deputy Fitzmaurice's question in relation to bread and flour from Canada, I'm sorry, but we don't have any information in relation to that, as it's not a raw material used in animal feed, but we will try to get information and revert back to the committee.